All right. Hi, everybody. This is Katie Hawkins from Unbridled Equine. I'm so glad you could join me today for the webinar. We're going to be discussing ideal posture today. An ideal posture is something that is a way to, it's kind of an indicator on if your session is going well with the horse during a water treadmill session. It sounds like something that just, is like, well, I want them standing in the correct way. Yes, and I'm going to go through what that looks like. But more than that, it's going to be your indicator on how the session is going. And if you need to change any of the elements like speed, water depth, or duration of the session. So there's a lot that goes into it. But before I get started, for those of you that are new, thank you for coming. I love our webinar sessions. I love when I get to see all you guys. If you haven't heard before, I own Unbridled Equine. It is a massage, rehab, and education company for everything equine health, rehab, body work, all that jazz. You can always check out my website, unbridled-equine.com, find me on social media, but more than anything, the fun part is now Unbridled has partnered with Pinnacle Rehab Center. So before I was located in Illinois, and now I am in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So today we're going to have a little bit of I'm going to call it a classroom portion. And then we'll get to the fun stuff where I have two horses that we're going to use as demos. But I did want to talk about, and I'll talk about this at the end too. If you haven't received the emails in September, I should know these dates, 20, 21, 22. Let me make sure I have that right. Yes, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to have the Equine Rehab and Wellness Conference here at Pinnacle Rehab Center. And we're going to be hosting, really, it's going to be kind of a great opportunity to meet leaders in the field, meet other people to network with, and kind of see an operation up and running and get all your questions answered that you have. And we're going to have great food because we love to throw a good party. We were just talking about food trucks. So I'm like, oh, let's have a conference where you actually have really good food when you're here because Southern food is awesome. So if you haven't gotten the information on that, September 20th through the 22nd here in Fayetteville, I have great speakers lined up. Hudson and I have been working for months kind of getting this together. And really it comes from the thought process of even where we have these webinars where we're needing an outlet to learn more. The cool thing is I'm going to also hopefully have the speaker, hold on, this is Sam that works for Hudson. So. Okay. Jess, I'm going to have Sam from Hudson text you so I can keep going, but he's having an issue signing in with a client. Anyways, so wellness seminar. Okay, so September. And one of the speakers that's coming. Okay, so I have our rehab vet that's going to be here. She's going to be the keynote speaker. We're going to go into nutrition, modalities, have, demos going on. I mean, it's going to be so many things. And what's fun is on Friday, like I said, really good food. And we're going to have a time to kind of connect around all the stuff that we're doing in our individual locations, but be able to talk about it on a bigger scale, but also on a practical scale, like what we're doing day in and day out to get these horses healed and healthy and get them home. And so I would love for you guys to be there. I'm getting excited planning it because it's something that I've always wanted to do, but also have always wanted to have available out there. So then finally Hudson, when I talked to him about it, and I was like, we really just need to host it ourselves. And I just got back from the AAETT conference, which is I may butcher this, American Association of Equine Therapists and Technicians. Don't quote me on that. That's a lot of letters in that acronym. Great conference, but for all the people that are doing modalities like massage, MagnaWave, PMF, cryo, all that stuff. Great conference, really great association to be part of. And what I'm hoping is to partner with them in the future for rehab specific modalities, specifically water treadmill, because that's something that is still an up and coming part of the industry. So you can find more information on Hudson's webpage, and we'll also be sending out an email to the webinar group specifically about the conference, because I'd really love to see you all there. I should say, I'd really love to see y'all there, because now I'm Southern. So I just think it's going to be a great opportunity for us all to get together, talk about what we're doing, learn from each other, and learn from experts in the field. And what I want more than anything, especially having vets here, is for vets and rehabbers to be working together, because creating a healthcare team is really what it's all about. And as the opportunities come about for there to be certifications for rehab, I want this group of people that get together and learn and talk and share to be the pioneers of that, because I want there to be the certifications out there for the people that are doing it. And the way to start doing that is to really elevate the education that we're doing. So that's a little bit about that. If you have any questions, obviously, let me know. Or Jess is here from Hudson as well, and we're hosting this together. But it's going to be for the weekend, and we have all the information on Hudson's website, on social media, registration, everything like that. So we'll be sure to share all that with you guys as well. So let me know if you have any questions about that. I can definitely answer it at the end, or talk about it some more at the end. So back to ideal posture. And so ideal posture, I'm going to talk through it, and then we're going to see it, because I don't know about you, but I'm a visual learner, and there's nothing better than, putting the horse in there and seeing what it's like. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me a minute, because that always takes me a second to do. I don't know why. Well, they changed my location of things. Why do they have to do this and make it fancy? All right, hold on. Don't want captions. Does anyone know how to do this part? I'm usually pretty tech capable, but post tools. Oh, there it is. I just had to look for it. All right, let's see. Okay, I pressed it. Oh, I'm allowing participants too. Wow, I'm really rocking this right now. Wow, I do not see it. Anybody that has been using Zoom recently? Well, how did they change it on me? All right, talk amongst yourselves. Oh, wait for it. I found it. Okay, can you see my horse in the background? Thumbs up. Okay, good. Isn't he handsome? His name's Dougie. He's so cute. I mean, I'm biased, but all right, let's get this fun going. So let me put you guys, there we go, on the bottom. That'll probably work. Okay, so ideal posture on the equine water treadmill. Let's get into it. So I don't know why this little doohickey's here. All right, let's put that up there. Okay, so like I was saying a little bit before, good posture is really your indication for key to success. So first of all, let's just talk about how do horses properly walk on the ground. So this is something we, see day in and day out, but it's really important for us to think about and look at, because what we're going to ask them to do is take what they do on the ground. Okay, hold on. I'm going to tell my girls to wait until 11:25 for Disha. I want to make sure I have enough time for this. Okay, so we want to make sure what we see on the ground is something that we're replicating in the water treadmill, because we don't want it to be different. We just want to utilize what we know is a healthy walking posture for them, and have it happening in the water treadmill, but manipulating it so we can get the most out of their walk. So we're going to kind of talk about what that looks like. But first, when we have a horse walking properly on the ground, we want to think about head in front of the vertical. We want to think about them engaging their lumbar spine. And then hind legs stepping well under the body and core activation. So when we look at this video, we can see, okay, we have a little nice, low, long head carriage. We're not asking this horse on the lunge line to change up at all what they're doing. They just have a nice natural head carriage. They're engaging the lumbar spine. So what you see as he walks is that movement from left to right. All right, good. His top line is engaged. He's using himself. Hind legs are stepping under the body, which he's doing well on the circle. Core activation, I would say he's doing somewhat well. He's kind of lazy walking. So it's not like, okay, I know this horse is engaging his core. What I can say is this is a horse that we worked in our AquaCore program. So I know that at times when he would have the bands on the back of him, he was activating his core. And it's not something he did great naturally. So that's where, okay, we know this horse is walking on the lunge line. He's using proper walking, you know, what I would call like normal walking for a horse if they're not under saddle and we're asking them to engage. So that is kind of your baseline of what you want to think of as proper walking. As I go, if you have any questions, because the chat is somewhere, but I couldn't say where it is right now because it's up here. I have to click on it. But if you have a question, just unmute yourself and say, I have a question, and ask those as we go. So this is kind of our baseline of what we want to see. The first thing I wanted to go through is what I call sea legs. So this is when the horse first learns the water treadmill and they are figuring out where their balance is, where their feet are, which is proprioception. They're figuring out how to coordinate their body. This does sea legs. Don't worry about ideal posture. Let it go. Let the horse, and this could be anywhere. I have horses that get on it and within a couple minutes figure out their balance and coordination. I have horses multiple sessions in that still have sea legs. I don't worry about ideal posture at this point. This is just the learning phase. Don't worry about it. So here's an example of, this was a horse that we have here right now who just learned how to tread. And I want to talk about something in a second, but as you can see, he's kind of rolling side to side, looking off to the side. His legs are kind of back and forth. Whoop, now we're going to hit off the wall. This is the time when they're usually, you hear the, oh, we're going to ride the tread backwards, all the things. So like he is just really learning and figuring out how to do all of this. One thing I want you to notice, and something I've started implementing more recently when we start treading a horse, is a person on either side of the treadmill with 2 lead ropes. This kind of we accidentally did one day, and I really liked it. As horses are learning the water treadmill, not so they have pressure on both sides of them, but it helps to correct the horse so you're not having to do it from one side, and it reminds them a little bit more of reins. So just something to try that, I mean, I kind of just happened into, and I was like, oh, I wonder why we haven't done this. This makes a lot of sense. And what it does is that horse is kind of, you know, hitting off the walls, figuring out their feet, riding the tread backwards, going forwards, doing all the things. There's 2 people to help correct it, and it helps to keep them more even. So just something to try during that sea leg time when they're figuring themselves out. But the main thing to take home with this one, do not worry about ideal posture during the sea legs portion of them learning the water treadmill. Next, let's go into ideal posture. So there's going to be 2 slides for this one to talk about ideal posture, but to go over it, the walk in the water treadmill will be slower than the walk over land. So that is important because I don't want you to think that they should be walking as fast in the water treadmill as they can naturally walk over land. Now they may get up to a point where they're able to pretty closely match their pace in the water treadmill, but this would be 15, 20, 25 sessions in when they're strong, they've got their balance and coordination and they're like rocking through it. But as a general rule, it's going to be slower than overland. The next part is thinking about their body being straight from their poll to their tail. And this is something that's not going to be the whole time, because just like us, they're going to look around, they're going to kind of move around. They aren't expected to stay like a board and straight. That's not natural for them. But I do want you to think about, as they're walking, the main thing is them wanting to kind of lean to the left and lead the handler. So the idea of them staying straight from pole all the way to tail and keeping a nice straight line as they're walking, knowing that there'll be fluctuations within that. These are kind of two important ones as far as placement. So they shouldn't be leaning on one side. You'll see some horses that have strong compensation patterns that overland, and when they're being ridden, it's kind of, I would say, you know, you don't see it as much just because the rider's correcting it, or you're just not seeing it because there's not sides, like the side of the arena, yes, but you're really going to see it because of the straight sides. If they bulge out to one side, this could be in their shoulder or in their hind end, you'll see that they'll be leaning on one side of the water treadmill because that's the posture of their body as they walk. Well, this is a great opportunity, even if it's not part of the injury that they might have, this is a great opportunity to fix that bulge. And I know for my horse personally, he really liked to bulge out tracking right with his left haunch. And man, the water treadmill has been huge in getting him to straighten out that lean that I was feeling under saddle. And it's a great tool in that. So be looking to see if they lean on one side. That's going to give you kind of an indicator of where their compensation is, but also horses that are very weak or lack fitness are going to roll from side to side of the water treadmill because they're trying to push off to give themselves momentum and strength as they go. So at the beginning, remember the sea legs portion, okay, we're going to let it go, but they shouldn't roll. There's going to be, when they step, there's going to be a sway, but they shouldn't be rolling from side to side of the water treadmill as they're going. And then the other one that I definitely see a lot of times, and is challenging to do, is them staying in the middle of the treadmill from front to back and side to side. So that means they shouldn't be too far forward, like towards the black mat at the front. They shouldn't be too far back, riding the back of the water treadmill. And from side to side, again, we want to think about them being as even as possible. Good. Okay, so Shyla, you have a question regarding rolling. Does that make the water start to wave a bit differently? Yes. So I can show that when we go out and look at that. When they're walking correctly, the waves will be going as they walk kind of front to back. When they roll side to side, what you see is a disruption in that front to back wave motion. And so I'll hopefully be able to show that wave idea, like specifically I have one horse in hot water that we're doing all the way up. She's buoyant, and you really see the waves and the splashing with that. And yes, when they start to go side to side with that roll, the wave pattern is disrupted. That's a great observation, and yes, that is very true.
Another question on that.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me? Does it come up like in the corners a little bit and splash up when it does that?
Yes and no.
Or is that a different one? Like a different kind of wave?
I think that depends on the water height too. And how
Okay.
walks and how they use how high they step out of the water. So I think there's multiple factors that go into that. Height of the water, their kind of how much, step they have, how much their leg comes up out of the water. Because each horse, even depending on the height, some just step higher or have more movement to their shoulder. And I've seen that disrupt wave patterns. We could do a whole thing on wave patterns, honestly, because there's a lot to that. But I like what you're saying with the rolling to side because that definitely changes the wave pattern and makes it, I would call, choppy. It was how I would use that as like boat terms. It looks choppy in the water, and it's because they're rocking that forward backwards movement from side to side, and it chops up the water. And then again, that splashing pattern matters too. If they're too far forward or too far back or leaning on a side, you don't get that nice forward wave movement that you normally see from front to back. And what I've noticed is that most of the horses, if they are they're either nervous or they're getting really strong in the water treadmill, they'll want to kind of ride towards the front, which they're naturally going to want to do a little bit because they know the tread is coming from that point. So they want to try to stay, as close to the front as they can to make sure they're stepping properly. But we want to try to make sure, a lot of them want to get their head up over the door, which is cute, but we want to try to, as much as we can, keep them back. So here's a horse. Actually, this might be Dijon, who you're going to see today. So he is just like cool as a cucumber, this guy. And he's just like chill. And this was like his first session. Yeah, because I have myself on the far side. And he was just like, yeah, I've got this. I'm gonna just saunter on through this water, do my thing. And he's a horse that has very natural balance and good old quarter horse here. But he just kind of rocked his ideal posture. There's a little bit of rolling from side to side, but not much. Like he really had nice posture from the get-go and stayed in the middle of the treadmill and was a nice distance front to back as well. And then more on ideal posture. So head carriage. So we want to think about a low, relaxed, natural head carriage. So I'm not thinking, okay, they're overly under, I don't want them over the pole with their head, like let's say if you had side reins on or something. Nope, I don't want that. I think long and low head carriage, but each horse is going to be different. So see how they walk on the ground, because some of them are naturally more uphill and some of them are naturally going to be more downhill. And so we want to recreate that based on the horse themselves. This is a big one. Head not turned towards the lead handler. This is hard for them because, again, that's the person that has the lead rope. They're going to naturally want to kind of bring their attention to that person. And I'm going to show you in the video a nice way to kind of like correct that and re-engage their head and their top line to do it. Engage top line through the hind end. This is the big part. We want them to engage those longissimus, big back muscles, gluteals, hamstrings. Think of that whole top line. We want them engaging and pushing from their hind ends. Their hind legs should really be stepping under the body. You don't want to see an inverted posture. So think about the posture if I've talked about this before in a webinar, but they have that inverted posture where they're not engaging their hind end. And this is what they look like when they're swimming and their head is above water and they're just paddling. Again, while I'm not a huge fan of pools, but they invert their posture to keep their head up. This is the nice thing about above ground treadmills. We really want to think, okay, they have a nice head carriage, natural head carriage, and they're engaging their top line and they're pushing from their hind end. So this is an example of a horse. Okay, so he keeps wanting to, okay, now he's in the middle. Now he wants to kind of look over at the lead handler. You can see she has from underneath the lead rope, she kind of brings him back with a little shake of the lead rope. Boop, boop. I call it like bumping him, like bump him back a little bit so that he gets in the middle and he brings his head to the center. And he's not doing it a ton. Horses will do this more than this, but I thought it was just a nice correction of bumping him back. There we go to ideal posture. So it can be very slight, but just, whoop, you need to bring your attention back, buddy. Whoop, whoop, you got to back up. That's kind of what we're looking for. Ideal posture. Why is this not ideal posture? Let's look. All right, so this is Mo. And what you can see with Mo is he is leaning really hard on that right side. So he's learning it a little bit. So he's still a little worried about the waves in the front, but he's got his head to the left and he's pushing his hind end over to the right really hard. So this is a horse that we're going to pay attention to. Okay, when he naturally walks, he is pushing harder off that left front and pushing out with that right hind. We need to correct that and get that straight. Here's another example. This is Serafina. And Sarah she's still figuring out her legs, as you can tell. But what I want you to see here is she is not tracking well as far as tracking forward. So she's doing a little bit of this, where she's wanting to dish out her front feet. And we need to get her to a better, her posture's all over the place, but as you see with her feet, okay, we need to get her tracking in a straight line because nothing's going to be straight if her feet aren't tracking underneath each other. So those are things we're going to look for with different issues that can happen. Couple things to avoid that are just kind of pet peeves of mine. Do not feed treats while treading. This is just asking for the horse to get out of ideal posture. They're going to look for the person, feeding them treats. It worries me from a safety standpoint too. But we really want to think about that straight posture. Well, anytime we're giving them something, they're going to naturally look to that person and then stay looking to that person for treats. So no treats on the water treadmill. Also, I'm just not a fan of diapers. And this was a friend of mine that has a program. I love her program in Florida. Andrea, she's amazing. She's in Wellington. And she has a diaper with her water treadmill. And I just wanted to show you a little bit of how they have to bring their hind end further out and then in. So when they have the diaper on, they almost have to swing out their hips to accommodate the diaper being underneath them. So just a quick video of that. So you can see where that unnatural movement comes in when they have to bring their legs around the diaper. And so it's really not ideal posture when they have to do that. So just a quick video of that. And then what I want you to think about with ideal posture as we look at it is if ideal posture is not able to be achieved, or if it gets worse throughout the session, this is when it's an indicator to you, I need to change the speed, water depth, or my duration of my session. And these are things, speed, water depth, and duration we've talked about in other webinars. But this, a lot of people ask like, well, how do I know this needs to be changed? Ideal posture is going to be the indicator that tells you we need to look at these other factors. So let's go. Perfect timing. Dijon's getting on right now. Let's go over and I'm going to walk you through the barn and we're going to go watch Dijon tread. Let's go have some fun. All right, here we go. Hold on. And if you've never been, this is where you would come for our conference. I love our barn. This is just, oh, this is our indoor. Just got drug. We're really spoiled with our indoor, but we have 7 stalls on this side and then 22 stalls, 21 stalls, I think now, because we put our Vitaflor in one of them in the other barn. And we're completely full right now in August. So we've got a lot of horses here for fitness and rehab right now. But let's go see Mr. Dijon. He is treading. This is when you get the real fun stuff because we're going into the real stuff. I'll get rid of the stop sharing. There we go. All right. Oh, that would have been fun as I bite it. All right. So we've got Mr. Dijon over here. I'm going to start in the front. He's really cute little quarter horse. All right. So let's start with Dijon up front. So initially, I want you to look at how is he tracking. Well, first of all, he's in cold salt. We have a lot of cold treaders right now because we have a lot of lower limb issues and hoof issues. So we have a lot of cold salt. We're only doing 1 or 2 in hot right now. So he is at about hot height and his natural walk is not very fast. So his speed is one where he's at a slower rate. And that's kind of natural for him. So first I want us to look at how is he doing from left to right? I like where he's at. He's in the middle. There he goes. He wants to go drink it. Good. And he's one that also stays really nicely. Hi, buddy. In the middle of the tread. So he's not too far forward. He's not too far back. He's pretty nicely in the middle of the tread. Now we're going to check out a little bit of him from the back end. Let's see. I don't want to get a shadow. So the main thing I would say right now that he's distracted with is the lead handler. So what I would have, and this is kind of like where like staff training can come in too, is okay, he's also paying attention to me a little bit, but okay, let's go ahead, let's bump him back a little bit and keep his head in the middle. There he goes. So it doesn't have to be a constant, his head is right in the middle, he's straight, but it's little corrections that we can make to be like, oh, Dijon, it's kind of like a kid. Whoop, you need to pay attention. Back up a little bit. He's also probably getting tired, is my bet. Yeah, because he's newer here. Yeah, so he's really personable. He's so cute. He's almost at 8 minutes and he treads for about 10. So he's also getting tired. So what we know is, okay, we're starting to lose our ideal posture. We know our duration is coming up. I feel comfortable with his speed. I feel comfortable with his height. So he's draining now. So we're going to ideally have his posture stay consistent even as he's getting tired here. One thing I do want to note as well is as you bump him to correct him. So we use, what's his speed? Let me look. 1.5. So he's slow. He doesn't walk super fast, which is fine. He's a lesson horse, and that's kind of his demeanor overall. So I mean, this is kind of the speed. He probably walks this slow over land. I don't even think he walks that much faster. He's just kind of a saunterer, which is perfect for his job. And he's here post-surgery. He actually got nerved in his left front, but he has issue. I forget. I'd have to go look at his records to remember exactly why he got nerved. I want to say it's something coffin or navicular bursa related, but he's got a lot of issues in his right hind stifle from compensating for the pain in his left front. So we're correcting not only really post-surgery, but more the compensation patterns before he goes back under saddle. And I love that this is a lesson horse that's getting this kind of rehab done so that he's that valuable of a lesson horse, which I think is so cool. One thing I wanted to note is that I really like to keep a loose, relaxed lead rope while they're in there. I don't want people to have a tight grip on their lead rope. That does not help itself. It would be like if you were in the saddle and you're just holding the horse the whole time versus asking them to connect the reins, softening, giving, asking them to connect. So I want you to have a relaxed lead rope, but I want that little bump of correction. And this is why we use the rope halters, is so we can get a little bit more of a correction there and bump them back, you know, or keep them in the middle if they're having issues with that, because they're naturally going to want to lean towards the handler. So he's finishing up his session. He's almost done. He's keeping nice posture even at this point too, but I can tell just from his sea legs coming back a little bit, he's tired. Good boy. All right, perfect. So he's going to come out. 10.5, perfect. You can kind of watch the unloading process. So we really like them to wait, take a breath, and then walk out calmly. Good boy. Awesome. Really good for him. All right, so we'll wait a second while Nike comes. Nike is here with front fetlock. Nike actually belongs to a vet, and Nike has front fetlock issues. And more in, I can't remember which side, more in one side than the other. This is why everything's written down, because when you start to get 20 horses, 15, 20 horses, you're like, I know there's an issue in the front, but I don't know which leg. I have it all in like a chart so I can quickly reference it. But she is going to be hot water and all the way up, because she recently has had, I would say it's probably 2 weeks ago now, injections, and we want her to work more on range of motion than even fitness at this point. So we have the hot water and we have it all the way up. One thing to note, since we're in summertime right now, and I don't know about you, maybe Shyla in Canada, you're not having these issues, but we're hot here. Welcome to the shininess. We're hot. And as it gets hotter, one thing to note just from a management perspective, we've been like high 80s to upper 90s, not quite in the hundreds yet. That's more August. But as it gets hotter, we actually turned off our heater for our hot water because our hot water is staying right at about 90 something. And I don't want it high 90s when it's this hot out. So I turned off the heater and it's staying probably about, I'd say 92 to 95 degrees without the heater. And that seems to be a more comfortable temp for them. I just don't want them with that really, really hot water. Yet it's still warm enough to get that same warming effect. So just a management idea for you guys. So Nike's here. We're going to have her buoyant. We're working on range of motion, post injections for her. With the eventual, we're going to be working on fitness at some point. And because there is this chronic issue in her fetlocks, eventually we'll change to cold salt so that we can have hot and cold salt going on depending on what we're looking for, fitness versus reducing inflammation. So she's one that as she's here, her protocols will change.
The nice thing is her mom's a vet, so it's really easy to work through.
Hey,
So
Katie,
yes,
on her with having just injections, how long do you wait after the injections before
that's
you
a
start walking them?
really good question. So each vet will have post-injection protocols that they do.
Right.
On average, after an injection, the day after is stall rest, maybe hand walking, depending on the vet. The second day after injections is hand walking, sometimes quiet turnout. By the third day, they're back to turnout and regular work. So I usually wait at least 3 days where they could like be back to normal work, depending on the injection. But anywhere from 3 to 5 days is usually when I start them back to the treadmill. And that's something that I always check, even if it's an injection that we've done before with that specific vet, because I want to make sure that it's with that horse a time frame. But I would say somewhere between 3 to 5 days is pretty normal to go back to treading post injections. All right, we've
And
got
then do you find real quick
Keep
with the injections, do you find you do you after the injection go to hot or do you go to cold? Like what's gonna keep that injection in there the most?
That's a good question. I would say I probably stick with, I know Nike, she's like, you're not usually there, Katie. I would say I usually stick with whatever they've been doing. So I don't change their protocol on the water treadmill just because they got injections. So if they've already been getting cold, I stick with cold. If they've been on hot, I stick with hot. If we're having issues with inflammation, I might ask the vet, hey, my bet is, here's my bet. If they're injecting something in the leg, they're probably already on cold salt. If you don't have cold salt, you would still do hot, and then I would recommend icing on the back end. Because let's say I have a horse on hot because I need the water high because we're working on range of motion through their stifle. Let's say a stifle injection. Okay, there's a good one. They get, their stifle's injected. Well, I can't do cold salt that high. So, okay, I'm going to stick with the hot at the height I've been doing, which is going to be buoyant for stifles. And then maybe I'm going to cold pose those on the back end to help reduce inflammation. But I don't often change the protocol on the tread because of injections, unless we're having an issue with inflammation and I could change it to cold salt. I might do hot and then switch it to cold salt afterwards.
Because I've got, and this is really for my horses because
but
they're
these
here
are
anyways.
important questions. Yes, these are great.
My thought, and I've kind of talked to my vet with about this too, because so with mine, when I run them hard, they're on cold. They're always on cold.
Okay.
When we're not running, then we're just doing fitness, so we're hot.
Yeah.
So my horses alternate between what their activity is and stuff.
Right.
So, but my thought is on the injections that after the injections, I want to do cold because I want to keep that inflammation out, which keeps that injection in there. And I would assume last longer essentially. And then, if I just don't know, like, how long should I be doing that? Because I have found too, like the ones, if I'll do cold on the ones that I run real hard, and then if we get to a point where like we're not running hard and I'm still doing cold, I do find that some of them will, I don't know if lock up's the right word, but essentially I feel like there's a point where there's too much cold for them because they're just too cold and there's no more inflammation to pull out because they have no other injuries.
Yes.
And so then at some point it's too much cold and I can see it in their gait, like one leg will the hock will kind of lock up when they're walking at some point. And so then that's kind of my indicator. Okay, let's go back to hot and just exercise for a while.
Yes. So your thought process, this is what I love. Yes. So what you're seeing is that why there can't be a protocol for every horse the same way. What you're seeing is, yes, at post-injection, I want to reduce inflammation. So I'm going to put them in cold. But it gets to a point then when it shifts because you want increased range of motion. That's when you change to hot. So your thought process is right. okay, I want to reduce inflammation from this injection for the first week. And then I usually say that about 2 weeks post-injection is when they have complete range of motion again, or the steroid has taken into effect, i.e.
Yeah.
don't expect overnight for that joint to be fixed. It's not going to be. The steroid needs time to reduce inflammation. So you're going to help it with the cold salt. But then eventually the steroid is working, the inflammation is down. Now we need to increase range of motion. We do that with hot water. So yes, then what you could think is, okay, I'm going to do hot, but I still want to ice them at the end. So I'm going to empty it and then put cold in. And you could
I
do that
quite
too,
often too.
which is the
Yeah.
beauty, right? Because then you're
Yeah.
getting that reduced. They don't need cold the whole time. They need more movement through their joints because we've reduced the inflammation. We want their joints to move. But then at the end, we use cold so that we can go ahead and ice their legs in 5 minutes versus having to put ice boots on them and all of that.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the thought process. And that's the observations that you're making that are going to take you so much further with your horses because you're seeing when the shift needs to happen and how you use the different pieces of the equipment to your advantage. Gold star. Gold star. I'm so proud of you. It's like one of my students, just making me proud right now. So glad you came here and learned everything. Okay, Nike. Let's go see Nike. And I have the best employees. They're like all ready to go. I got you on my little cart. Hi, ladies. See, I do move on the cart. Look at me go. All right. Here's Nike. Okay. So Nike's hot water, obviously, because it's all the way up. She is one, this is an interesting behavior too. She really likes to drink the water. So sometimes it's hard to keep her in ideal posture because she's so focused on drinking it, which is adorable and fun for her. And I want her to have fun, but sometimes it's like, honey buns, you got to stop drinking and you gotta pay attention for a second. Okay. I see a question. What is the ideal warm water and cold temps? Really good question. So my hot water, I try to keep between 95 and 98 degrees. And so in the summer, that's really easy. Like I was talking about, we don't even have our heater on right now and it's plenty warm. It's staying in the 90s. And then during the colder months and when in winter, you'll actually see steam coming off of this in the winter when it's 98 degrees and maybe, 40 in here. I mean, we have a heated building, but we're still a barn. So it doesn't stay, super, super warm. And so you'll see steam coming off of the heat during winter. But cold water, I keep right at about 32-ish. Between 32 and 35 usually is the range for cold water. And it's cold. I usually, when people come do an in-house training with me, I actually have, and Christy, you've done this, I actually make you get in the cold water and feel it and walk in it. So you understand, like, this is ice water, it's cold. And the salt has that osmotic effect of pulling out the inflammation. And so the cold is very cold. And so you don't want cold above hock height because you can put a horse into shock. If the water's too high, like near their belly, it's going to splash onto their belly, but you don't want them submerged in the cold water. Okay. So here is Miss Nike in her hot water. Great question. Keep the questions coming. I like when you interrupt me. So she's pretty nice as far as her straightness goes. Yeah, I like her. She's nice from left to right. She is one that likes to ride the front of the treadmill more than the back. She doesn't really ride it back, except when she was learning. She loved to ride it back. Now she stays really close to the front. One thing I'm going to show you on the equipment are the little notches that are on either side in the front and the back. And when you buy your treadmill, it'll come with these little ropes. What these are for is so you can put these across. There's a quick release on one side and then an ability to clip it to the other side. You can put these along those front, and I'll show you this later, those front notches if you need help with a horse that's riding it too far forward or riding it too far back. It's a really good way to give them kind of a barrier of how far they can go. Why I personally take them off once a horse has learned it, or I don't start with them, is I have found a lot of horses will take their chest and they'll lean against those to do less work, or they'll lean their butt against the back to get out of having to engage their hind end. So I don't leave them on all the time. They're more of a little bit of a like bumper, like with bowling, to help them understand where their body needs to go, especially if it's a horse that maybe has had EPM or has any kind of neurological issue. Understanding where their body is in space can be really hard for them. And so having that for them could help a lot as well. So I'll show you how those go on in a little bit, but that is something we've used with Nike before to help keep her off the front of the treadmill. So she's doing a pretty good job right now, not too close to the front. She, like I said, she likes to drink water. Let's get a look at how she looks with her head carriage. Hi, Nike. Okay, so this is a pretty natural head carriage for her. She is naturally more built uphill. She's a jumper. And so she is a little bit of a higher head carriage versus that long, low and relaxed. And when the water's higher like this, they are going to carry their head a little bit higher unless they want to put their mouth in the water, which she likes to drink it. So it's something she doesn't mind doing. I wonder if I can see. Hi, you're all right. You're all right. Okay, I'm scared. You're all right. Okay. Welcome to the fun. I won't touch you. I'm sorry, babe. This is live for you. Never a dull moment. She's like, no one's supposed to be on that side. Don't touch me. Nike has a lot of feelings. I was going to show you the wave pattern, but we'll hold off on that. It's okay, Nike. Good job, girls. My girls know how to handle it. They're like, Katie, stop causing issues. As you get splashed. All right, so from the back, one thing I want you to see, Brooklyn, could you move the net for a second? Oh, now we can see the wave pattern a little bit. So what you'll see is it waves forward and then comes back. So she has a really nice rhythm right now. It is going to splash up a little bit just because of how high the water is. But what I like is that her hind legs are reaching underneath her really well. So let's come from the side. We're in the splash zone. So she's still a little stabby with her hind end, in my opinion. But this is why this horse is in warm, because we've got to get her range of motion back. And what I would start to wonder is if she's had pain in her front fetlocks, has she compensated with her hind end by not pushing forward into the front? So if her front end hurts, has she kind of rocked back, which would cause, not rocked back like engaging her hind end, but like rocked back her weight off her front end, which would cause that stabbiness with the back end. And then looking at her body up top. Hi, baby girl, you're okay. She's engaging her top line well. There's a nice even rhythm to her footfalls. And now her head is nice and relaxed. So I'm really happy with her position. She's a little, maybe a little forward in it, but really not bad. Like her placement is nice. She's in the middle. When you get these bigger horses too, remember like with a big warm blood, they're going to take up most of the machine versus like the smaller quarter horse we had in here earlier. Trying to think, did I go through all the pieces of ideal posture? The biggest thing to notice when their ideal posture is changing is the duration correct? Am I draining them because they're getting tired? That's okay. It's just an indicator that they're getting tired, but you're already draining it and going to be stopping the session. So that's okay that their ideal posture is getting not ideal anymore because we know that they're getting tired. The other piece is really that I noticed that becomes the biggest issue is them wanting to look over to that lead handler and them wanting to ride it too far forward. So just really, again, those little bumps that I was talking about with the lead rope, bumping them over to the middle, bumping them back a little bit are going to be really important. Thanks, Nike. Thanks, guys. Okay. Oh, okay. We're having fun. I don't know. It's okay. All right, we're gonna get real for a second. I'm gonna put you guys down. Hold on. Well, there you go. You guys got to see the full thing right there. I can tell you everything that happened. Hold on. Good girl, Nike. She got, oh yeah, she was, oh, did it not reset? So she was at like 13 minutes then. Okay. All right. So this is such a good learning opportunity. We're going to talk about it. You didn't get to see the back end, so hold on. Okay. So she's still one that's funny about picking when she poops because the water's so high. You know, her tail doesn't get too far over the water. So you kind of got to get the net under there. And as you can tell, she's a little bit of a jumpier horse. Like when I went to pet her, she's a worrier. And she's sensitive. I hate to say it's because she's a mare, but she's just sensitive. That's just her demeanor. So when she went to get the poop, she actually lost her footing a little bit and kind of, you could hear it maybe a little bit, but like she banged really hard on the tread. And so what it actually did is it does that error where it stops itself. And it's in the box in the back. So it's the motor's way of saying like, hey, I got to protect my unit. Something's going on in there, and it shuts down. Now you can't reset it without going to the back room, which can be a little bit of an issue. And I can show you how to reset it actually back there. It might be helpful. So in an ideal situation, she would be like, oh, no big deal. I'll just stand here in this tub of water and relax and drink it. But she was like, you're trying to drown me. I'm going to die. So we opened the floodgates. You probably saw me do that. Open the floodgates on the bottom first. Now we've probably got, I don't know, 900 gallons in there. I mean, she's all the way up. Then I opened the drain on the side of it to help drain it. But I knew ultimately that was still going to take 2 minutes. And her demeanor to me was like, I'm getting out of here or I'm going to die. Right. The floor's not moving anymore. I'm going to drown. Life is over. So what I did, and this is where you couldn't see in the back, is I told the girls, I'm bailing, like I'm calling it. And so I stand to the side and I open the hind door and all the water rushed out. So I don't stand behind the door. Too bad I couldn't show you guys that. This is a really good, I call it a fire drill. Like, whoa, okay, we're doing it all. You never stand behind the door because I had about 900 gallons of water that would have just shoved me to the floor. But I knew this horse had reached her limit. I would rather lose my water than lose my horse or my people. So water's out. We've got to get it out because you could hear how much she was snorting, like she was scared. And so that's when that flight or fight response comes in. So we're just going to call it, get the water out, get the horse out. Now, she didn't have a bad session. She still got 13 minutes in. It's just kind of one of those things situationally that happens. And I love when it happens like this because I get to teach you guys. But you can see my staff is all trained that there was no worrying. There was like, oh, this isn't really fun. And I'm sure they're like, we're on the webinar. This is awesome. But that's where, okay, my back support person had already opened the floodgate in the back because she knew we're bailing. Okay, this horse really isn't feeling well. And I said, hey, I'm going to open it. I open the door, the water comes out, but we still have them walk off calmly. Someone just said, oh, you had PTSD for a second. Oh no. I don't know who this is because it just says iPad, but don't stress. I know I'm like super chill about this stuff. Maybe I should have a session of bad videos that have happened. And this is why I preach training at the beginning, getting them accustomed to it, teaching them safely about the different elements of the tread, running. Hi, Beatrix. I'm so sorry you had I'm so sorry. Everything's fine. We're all fine. Everyone's good. And I'm like one of those personalities where I'm just like real chill as like the fire's burning. I'm like, there's the fire. let's go get a fire blanket and a fire extinguisher. It'll be fine. It is definitely one of those things that if you have the horses well trained and your staff well trained, things are inevitably going to go wrong because that is just life and that's just horses. But if you know what you're going to do, i.e., Hannah looked at me and was like, it stopped. It must be the back. Okay, we knew we got to get the water out because we can't get it running again. Okay, it's not going to be running again. We've got 900 gallons of water in there. Are we going to try to let it drain because she's going to be chill? This is a horse that I kind of knew was not going to handle it well. That's why I put you all down on the cart, because she had a really hard time training and she is such a worrier. Like that's just her personality. And so at that point, it's like, nope, we got to get her out, get rid of the water. Great. Let's get the horse out calmly because we don't need her to get worried because we'll probably have her walk through it again this afternoon. We won't tread her. We might. But we want her to know like, whoopsie, that was fun. Sorry about that. But everything's okay. You're all right. Nothing bad happened. Two things I want to show you. Let's go reset the big master unit in the back. Hopefully I shouldn't lose Wi-Fi going back here. We have Wi-Fi throughout the farm. And I have very wet shoes because when I open the door, it's going to get everything wet. Okay, it's going to be loud in here, so you're not going to be able to hear me because of the chiller. Let me turn on the light. Okay. So my bed is back here. Yes, it has an error code. So this is like the main processor. So that felt the banging happening when we went to get her poop. So all you actually hit is reset. It's the red button right there. It resets it and then it's ready to go. The only thing, like I said, that stinks is if you're running the tread, it's not something you can fix from that. We have a wall in between. So it's not something you can fix on that side. So usually what we do is just go ahead and get the horse off because we have to go reset it. And I would say that's happened just, I don't know, handful of times. It kind of takes them hitting their back feet in the right spot by the motor for it to do it. And the other thing I wanted to show you while she's off, it's a really good way to clean your floors too, is this up here. Okay, I'm gonna set you here for a second. Okay, so these little notches that I was talking about are on either side in the front and the back. And so what you can do is clip this on. You want to have that side clipped on and the thing just hanging down. And then once the horse is on, you're going to clip it to the other side. Ours wasn't quite long enough, so we had to add this little extra clip. Otherwise, it was like too taut to get it clipped. But that gives you an idea of how you can have a little bit of a bumper for them. If you have a horse that's wanting to ride it too far forward, you're able to put that up, and that is a blocker for them. It's a soft blocker, but it allows them to understand where their body needs to be within there. So that's an option too. All right. Okay, so that was like a lot of information for you. Anybody have any questions? Now I'll open it up to those. I'm going to go back in the office just so it's not as loud. Does anyone have any?
I do. It's
Yes, go
it's
for it.
Beatrix.
Hi, Beatrix. Yes, go for it. I'm
Um,
sorry I gave you PTSD.
No, we did a horse this afternoon, and she's also you just got to have everything focused all the time.
Yep.
So it was just like, oh, okay. all good.
You feel the feeling of like, oh, I know exactly where this is gonna go. And
Absolutely.
it is hard because with horses, it is so fast. Like they just react, they don't think, right? And so for me, what I want myself and my staff to know is we just have to choose to react. And for me, I always tell them, get rid of the water. We can replace the water. I can't replace you. I can't replace the horse. I can't replace any of that. So get rid of the water and let's get the horse off safely. And so since they know how to do it, we do this first, we do this second. Okay, now we're just going to open the doors. It's always nerve-wracking, but to me now it's kind of like, oh, this is just what we do. Let's get the horse off. Oh, we're all right. Where do you want to go for lunch? You know,
Well
all
done.
right, we'll try it again later. But that's also my personality where like they kind of laugh where they're like, oh my God, that was terrible. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's probably why I jumped my horse, you know, because it's like it's terrifying and I kind of like it. But anyways, yes, go ahead.
The question, it comes back to the water temperature, because my treadmill does not have the cold and hot. So it runs on ambient temperature, which is around, I think it's your
You're Celsius, aren't you?
Celsius to Fahrenheit. I think it's about 55, maybe 60, round about there.
Okay. Okay. So you're running, yes, ambient temperature, which would make sense. Because where are you in South Africa?
In Cape Town. So
You're Cape Town.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would make sense and it would vary a little bit. Okay, go ahead. What's your question?
So I've learned now that the hot water is for the range of motion, to get more of that.
Mm-hmm.
We obviously didn't know that. So the horses seem to be very comfortable in the water, that the temperature, you know, because it is on the cooler side here. So do I really need to make a plan to get my water hotter to get more range of motion?
Well, I think there's twofold. Well, first of all, I can always send you my webinar about hot versus cold water to give you more insight into what hot versus cold really does, because I go into like, okay, hot water, it's going to, you know, open blood flow. It's going to, so I can send you that because that's in the library of webinars. But
Please.
Ambient temperature isn't bad. Most pools that horses swim in are ambient temperature because it'd be way too expensive to heat, or you couldn't cool a pool because they're going completely into it, but it'd be probably way too much money to heat an entire pool like that, unless you want to heat it like you do for humans. But ambient temperature, you're still getting the benefits of the water. So you think about it, we have temperature that we can play with the AquaPacer. We have water height, duration, what am I thinking of? Speed. So you still have those other pieces. It's just that the water temperature is something you can't play with. What it's doing is you're not going to be able to warm the muscles up as fast and as fully as you can with hot water. So for example, in the ambient temp, they're going to warm up their muscles just by the duration of how long they're doing it. So as they're working, their muscles are going to warm up. With hot water, they're going to warm up just because of the temperature of the water quite quickly. So you're going to be able to get to those pieces of range of motion faster. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And if we add an incline,
okay,
will that speed up the warming up process?
Yes and no. Yes, because they're working harder. I don't love inclines. It adds another element. I think it's too much resistance, in my opinion. It's a lot. If you've ever seen a horse on a regular dry treadmill with an incline, like just like us, it is a lot of resistance for them on dry land. So when you add the resistance of the water plus the incline, that is exponentially adding more resistance on their legs.
not to mention changing up where the water hits based on how it's inclined. So it adds another element of difficulty for you and them. It would warm them up faster, but does that outweigh adding the resistance of the incline? It
Yeah.
depends.
I will never put an injured horse or a
Sure.
rehab horse on an incline, never ever.
Yeah.
It's just the maintenance ones.
And I'd be careful with any that have had previous, soft tissue, anything suspensory, deep digital flexor, sesamoidal anything in their legs. If they've ever had a problem,
no incline.
don't do it. It's just not worth it.
Okay.
The fitness isn't worth the risk of the incline. Now, if you have a 7-year-old healthy horse that's there for fitness, that is fit as a fiddle, and they want to like up their game, sure, put it on an incline, try it. But be sure your water height is appropriate for the incline. So make sure that whatever you're wanting to focus on for range of motion, let's say you're wanting to focus on the carpus, you're wanting the knee range of motion because it's a cutting horse or whatever the discipline is. Okay, when they go for that incline, is that knee still in the water? Or is the knee going up and over the water? It's thinking of those body mechanics as you change the incline. So
Okay.
I like inclines better for dry treadmills. This is just me. I think it can be a very helpful tool. I think you have to be very aware of what the incline's doing, why you're doing it, so that it isn't a detriment to their body by adding that added resistance. Because the water resistance, well, and I would say you should go walk on it. Like, go feel it yourself.
I have.
Like, I do that
And
a
it's
lot.
horrible.
Yeah, like I have myself like put on some shorts, gotten in there, because when I wanted to understand biomechanics, I could read about it all day. But I had to I'm a visual learner. Like I needed to feel it, like understand it. Like, what's it like when the middle of my leg has water versus it's above my leg and I'm going through it. So I just went in there and tried it out and was like, oh, okay. So I would say go in there, put the incline on yourself and feel it at different points of your legs. Now, granted, they have their hind legs, so it's a little different, but how does it affect you? Because I think that's going to help your thought process when you're thinking of how do I want to use this for a certain horse.
Sure.
If that
Okay.
makes sense at all.
Perfect sense. Thank you very much.
And I do think it would warm them up. Back to your hot water. I do think it would make their muscles work harder, so they would get more blood flow, so they would warm up. It's just a different, by doing it with the hot water, they're pretty much getting in and warming up right away. So there isn't the warm up period. They're just getting in there and their muscles are naturally going to warm up from the water temperature. And same thing with the cold. Like, you're probably not going to get your water to that temperature. You could, again, you have to do it below hawk height when you make it that cold. But what we're able to do with the cold salt is reduce, and again, I'll show you that webinar, but the amount of inflammation that we're able to reduce because there's no muscles below their knee and hawk is really amazing with the cold salt. So, we're able to use it for a lot of those lower leg and hoof issues and horses that just naturally have inflammation because of the issues they've had. And I'll even have fitness horses on the cold salt, or I'll use hot and then cold salt because they've had a previous injury. And I want to make sure they're getting fit, but we're making sure we don't tax that injury at the same time.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Welcome very much. You want to come over and see us for the conference?
I will climb on the plane now if I could.
I know. We love that. I'll have to have you in on virtually when we have the really good presenters so you can see.
Yes, please.
Okay, just for you, just because you're on ours, we'll have to do it. It's a little bit of a flight for you to come over. I think I need to come over to you. That's what we need to do.
You have to. You're absolutely correct.
That's what it is. I need to go there. Yeah. All right. Any other
Thanks,
questions?
Katie.
Yes. What is your protocol to prep your horses before they go in and after they are done? Ooh, London, great question. Okay, so I have some, I think I have a webinar on prepping them, but let's go over it. So, and tell me if you mean something different than this, but before they go in, we pick out their feet, we hose off their body at least from like belly down. When it's really like they're really dirty because they've been out and turn out, you know, they come in, we try to get as much dirt off of them as we can, because we're saving it from going in the water. We also spray out their feet beyond just picking their feet. A lot of times they'll have dirt and debris and shavings and hay kind of stuck up in their shoes, especially if they have shoes on or pads. So we'll do that so that we can get as much of that debris out of their feet. We braid up their tail. So we braid their tail and then we kind of roll it up into a knot. What that helps us do by braiding up their tail is it keeps it out of the way when we're catching the poop. And the catching the poop is how we get away from not having a diaper on. And actually, Nike's a great example of a horse that could not wear a diaper. Like she is already sensitive about her hind end. She would hate having that on. That would really, I don't think she would be able to handle it. So we braid up their tail so we're able to catch their poop. Then they go on, and then afterwards, we usually, depending on the horse, some of them we go ahead and hose off again if they have any sort of skin issues or sensitivity to chlorine, since we do have chlorine in our hot water and then the salt in the cold. So Nike's another example, again, is just a sensitive cookie. She gets like hives really easily just from the environment. And so she's one that we hose off after she treads. And then if she needs it, we do a 1 to 4 dilution of vinegar water. That's something you can just use on horses in general, but it kind of helps her. She just gets like fungusy and skin rashy, and it's just kind of her body. So we try to do as much as we can to help her since she's in water 3 to 4 days a week. How can we help her skin afterwards? We also make sure they're completely dry. So we put them on our VitaFloor, which is vibrational therapy. We have a whole stall for it. And so we have them go onto the VitaFloor after they're done treading for 20 minutes. This helps not only with relaxing their muscles and helping with kind of post-workout lactic acid to go out after they've worked out, but it also is just really calming for them as well. And it's part of our routine that we take their tail out, we put them on the VitaFloor, they do that for 20 minutes, and then they kind of go on to whatever next. So it might be going back to their stall, it might be going to turnout, it might be getting MagnaWave next, whatever's on their schedule. So that's a little idea of pre and post what we do with the water tread. Let me know if you have wanted more detail about any of that.
No, that's exactly what I was wondering.
Awesome.
I used to work at a place that had an underground tread, and
Mhm.
we had also an issue of losing shoes. Do you have any issues with that?
No. My favorite thing is to tread horses barefoot, honestly. So if I have a horse coming that maybe has been on stall rest or has been turned out, or the owner will be like, oh, do you want me to put shoes on? And I'm like, no, actually. We grow feet really, really well here from the water treadmill and from the VitaFloor. And so we've had a lot of horses that have had really kind of weak, brittle feet, and people worry about them in the water getting brittle. We don't have that issue. And my favorite is to do a barefoot horse, but I would say most of ours, probably 75%, come with shoes on. I've never had a horse lose a shoe. Now I'm going to say that, I'm going to knock on wood. I've never had a horse lose a shoe in the water treadmill, ever. And I've had them in aluminum, steel, pads, bar shoes. I mean, you name it. The only shoe you don't want in there is anything like a racehorse that would have any kind of like stud in it. You don't want any sort of stud that would mess up your belt. But as far as like clips, you know, bar shoe, I mean, any of them, flapper shoes, any of those, like they're fine in there. And no, I've never had a horse lose one in there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know what? I bet they lost them in the pool more from clipping them because of how they swim. I bet they would clip. That's just thought. That's just me thinking. I bet it was because of how their legs were moving. So they're going to be moving in a more natural stride in the water treadmill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you're not going to lose any of those. Thank goodness, because that's a pain when they lose their shoes. It's the worst.
Yeah, I've read a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a pain. Great, great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, like always, you guys, I want to be cognizant of your time. We got to go through a lot today. I mean, we got to do a real drill. We got to look at ideal posture. We kind of got a little everything. I'll be here for like 10 minutes. I'll stay on Zoom if anyone has any, one-on-one questions that they don't want to ask to the group. But as always, I want to go over kind of things to know. So next webinar would be in September. But that's also when we have our conference. So let me see how that's going to work. Maybe what I'll make is my webinar is actually like the keynote speaker of the conference. That could be kind of cool. Or a session during the conference. I don't know. I'll play with that. You can get a break from hearing me talk. But that'll be in September. So webinars are every other month, usually about the third Thursday, same time. And I'll do different ones each week. Each time I have a webinar, not webinar each week. I wouldn't have time for that. But if you have any topics you want me to cover, always just let me know. I'm available. You can email me at unbridledequine2@gmail.com. I also put my number on that email. Shoot me text. Phone calls, I can't guarantee. Text messages, I can answer because I'm usually answering them as I'm out and about in the barn. Feel free to always shoot me a text. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And if I can't help you, I probably can get you to a person that can. I do offer consulting, one-on-one consulting. If you have a rehab business that you're needing help on the business side of stuff, I love doing the business side of it, but also if you're needing help with the practical parts of it, we can do that virtually with business consulting. I have in-house trainings, people that are either going to get treadmills, have new staff. I have people come here. I also go to people's facilities as well to train them on their treadmills. Oftentimes when people get a new Hudson, I kind of laugh. I'm like the Hudson girl that they call. I don't know how I got that title, but it's there. Yeah, I'm happy to help you. And I have a whole training protocol and training manual that I go through that really goes into how to load a horse, how to maintain your equipment, all the different elements that we talk about this in my webinars, but even more in depth. The webinars I've been doing for, gosh, it could be 1.5 2 years now. So there is a library of them on the education portion of the Hudson website. So go back and look at those. You'll kind of get to see me throughout the years. The live demos are newer, which is kind of exciting. I mean, obviously today was exciting. But it gives it, I have a lot with videos, but practical examples and case studies for us that we go through. My goal is really for all of us to get together as a community, ask questions. I like when you put me on the hot seat. If I can't answer it, I'll probably have questions for you to try to figure it out. That's what we're here to do, is figure this out. We all are doing it, with good hearts and wanting to help horses, but it can be hard to do it on your own. And so I like when we can share with one another. And then our conference in September, the 20th through the 22nd, like I said, it's going to be rehab and wellness. It's going to be here in Fayetteville, Arkansas at our facility. And we have just great people coming to speak at it. I'm really excited. We're going to be doing, there's also going to be business, a marketing coach that's for horses specifically. So that marketing piece of we wear every hat, and somehow we have to do social media and courses and we have to do all this stuff. And so how do we run a business while healing these horses as well? And so we're going to have someone here for that as well. And someone I've worked with personally since the start of my business that has helped me. I call her my business therapist because she's been with me through all these changes. But nutrition, modalities, water treadmill, vets are going to be speaking. And like I said before, a beautiful location. The fall here is lovely and great food. We're just going to have good food. I don't want crappy conference food. I want to have good food. So yeah, it's going to be tense and it's going to be a blast. So I hope you guys can make it. There's information and registration on the Hudson website. But again, you can always reach out to me and I can help you get to the right spot. Thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoyed it and got some information and at least got to see that even in the ideal situations, things can go bad. But with training, they don't have to end badly. So yeah, thank you so much. I'll stay on here. I'm going to stop the recording, but if you have any questions, go ahead and you can stay on here and ask me those. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you in September.